James lived alone in a small wooden house near the edge of a quiet forest. The days were peaceful, but the nights could feel long and cold. He had no family nearby, no friends who visited. His only company was the sound of wind blowing through the trees and the ticking clock on his old wall. One evening, as snow fell gently outside, James was reading a book near the fire. It was already dark. The forest looked like a sea of shadows through his window. He was about to get up to make tea when knock knock knock. James froze. No one ever came to his door, especially not at night, especially not in the middle of winter. He waited. Maybe he imagined it. Knock knock knock. 3 slow knocks. Real this time. He stood up carefully, heart beating a little faster. He walked to the door and opened it just a little. A cold wind hit his face, and in the dim porch light stood a little girl. She couldn't be more than 8 years old. Her hair was messy, her clothes were too thin for the cold, and her bare feet were red from the snow. She held nothing, said nothing, just stood there looking up at him with large, tired eyes. James didn't know what to say. "Are you lost?" he asked. No answer. He looked left and right. No car, no adult, no footprints behind her. It was like she appeared from nowhere. "Come inside," he said finally. She didn't move. So James stepped aside and said again, more softly, "It's warm. You can come in." Slowly, the girl walked in. She didn't thank him. She didn't look around. She just stood near the fireplace and stared at the flames. James brought her a blanket. She took it silently and wrapped it around her shoulders. Then he gave her a bowl of hot soup. She ate like she hadn't had food in days. Still, no words. James tried again. "What's your name?" The girl looked at him for a moment, then looked away. No, answered. James didn't push her. She was clearly scared. He checked her feet, red but not frozen. He found socks and slippers for her. He thought about calling the police, but something stopped him. He wasn't sure why, but something about her felt strange. She didn't act like a normal child. She didn't cry. She didn't ask for help. She didn't even shiver from the cold. She just sat near the fire, watching it like it was speaking to her. That night, James made a small bed on the couch for her and said, "You can sleep here. I'll be in the next room. You're safe." The girl didn't respond, but she lay down and closed her eyes. James left the room, still confused. He sat on his bed, wondering who she was, where she came from, and why she was alone, before sleeping. He checked on her again. She was gone. The blanket was there. The slippers were there. But the couch was empty. James rushed to the front door. It was closed, but not locked. He stepped outside, cold wind hitting his face. No sign of her. But then he looked down. Tiny footprints in the snow, barefoot, heading back toward the forest. James followed a few steps, then stopped. The prints went deep into the trees, into a place he never explored, even in daylight. He stood there, heart heavy with questions. Why did she leave? Where did she go? And most of all, who was she? As he turned to go back inside, he heard something far away, a low hum, almost like a whisper. It was coming from deep in the woods. James looked out into the darkness, but there was nothing there. The next 2 days felt strange for James. Ever since the little girl disappeared, he couldn't sleep well. He kept thinking about her face, pale, quiet, and full of something he couldn't explain. Not sadness, not fear, something deeper. He told himself maybe she was just lost. Maybe her family found her. Maybe she was safe now, but in his heart, he knew that wasn't true. On the second night, snow was falling again. James sat on the couch, staring at the empty blanket where she had slept. The fire burned low. He hadn't spoken to anyone all day, and then knock, knock, knock. Same slow sound. Same pattern. James stood up fast. His heart raced. He opened the door. It was her. The little girl stood there again, barefoot. No coat, no words, just like before. But this time, she was not alone. Behind her stood a tall woman. James's breath caught. The woman was beautiful, but in an unnatural way. Her skin was pale like snow. Her eyes, sharp and glowing, faintly yellow. She wore a long dark coat that looked more like smoke than fabric, and her hair was long, black, and moving slightly. Though there was no wind, the little girl stepped forward and looked up at James. She finally spoke. "This is my mother." Her voice was soft, calm, too calm. James opened the door wider. "Come in, it's freezing." The woman didn't move. At first, she looked into James's eyes, like she was reading him, like she could see every thought he'd ever had. Then she nodded once, slowly, and stepped inside. The girl followed. James closed the door behind them, trying to stay calm. But every part of his body felt alert, like something was wrong, even if he couldn't see it yet. The woman sat down near the fireplace without asking. The little girl sat beside her. James noticed her feet weren't even red this time. Number. Frostbite, no cold skin. Like she wasn't even human. He brought tea. Still unsure what to say, the woman finally spoke. "You fed my daughter when she was in need. You gave her warmth. We owe you." Her voice was low, clear, and deep. Each word felt heavy. James sat down slowly. "I didn't do anything special. I just helped." The woman tilted her head. "Most people would not have opened the door. Most people would have called someone else. You let her in." There was silence. The fire crackled. James looked at the girl. "Where did you go that night? You disappeared." The girl looked at the woman, her mother, then back at James. She whispered, "I went home. I had to show her." "Show her what?" James asked. The woman answered, "That someone here still has kindness." James didn't understand. "Here? You mean this town?" "No," the woman said, eyes glowing a bit brighter. "I mean this world." James blinked. "Wait, what are you talking about? Who are you, really?" There was another silence. Then the woman stood up, slowly, calmly. She walked to the window and looked outside. Snow still fell, but it made no sound. "We are not from where you are," she said. "We were not born in your cities. We do not sleep. We do not grow old." James felt his skin go cold. "What are you saying?" he whispered. The girl stood now too. She held her mother's hand. "We are hiding," she said, "from something worse." James tried to make sense of it all. They looked human, but they didn't feel human. "What are you hiding from?" he asked. The woman turned back to him. "From the ones who took our home. From the dark, from the silence." She walked closer. "We only need shelter, a place to stay. 1 week, no questions, no noise." James hesitated. I don't know. "This is all too—" The girl stepped forward and looked into his eyes. Her small hand touched his arm. "We don't want to hurt you," she said. "But if you send us away, they will find us." James didn't understand what they meant, but something inside told him this wasn't a threat. It was a warning. He sighed. "Okay, 1 week, but I want answers." "Someday." The woman nodded. "You will get answers." In time, that night, James gave them the guest room. He didn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to every sound. Sometime after midnight, he heard the girl laughing softly. Not a child's laugh, something older, wiser. Then silence. He tiptoed to the door of their room. He didn't knock. Just listen. Inside, he heard whispers. Not in English. Not in any language he knew, like wind moving through wires. Like static. Like voices made of electricity. He stepped back. His hand shook. Who had he let into his home? The morning sun came slow and quiet. James hadn't slept at all. His eyes were heavy. His hands still slightly shaking from what he heard last night. The whispers behind the closed door. That strange language like wind and wires. Not human. Not right. He made coffee and stood in the kitchen staring out the window. Snow still covered the trees, but everything was still. Too still. Then he heard footsteps. The little girl walked in. Her face was calm, almost blank, like she had slept peacefully, as if nothing was strange about this new place. "Good morning," James said, trying to smile. She nodded but said nothing. She sat at the table and waited. A moment later, her mother entered the room. James felt the same cold energy from her as before, powerful, unreadable, ancient. The woman looked at him with her glowing yellow eyes. "We need to talk." James swallowed hard. "Okay." They sat at the table. The fire in the living room crackled softly behind them. The woman spoke, her voice like quiet thunder. You have offered us shelter. For this we are thankful. But if we are to stay, there must be rules. James nodded slowly. What kind of rules? She held up 3 fingers. Rule 1. Never open our door after sunset. James blinked. Why? Because we lock it for a reason, she said, and if it opens, it won't be us who walks out. James felt a chill crawl down his spine. Okay. What's the second rule? She held up 2 fingers now. Rule 2. Do not ask where we came from. James frowned. Why not? Because if you learn, they will learn about you. James looked at the girl, but she was staring down at her hands. Not speaking. Fine, he said carefully. What's the third rule? Rule 3. Never speak to her, she pointed at the girl, after midnight. James's eyes widened. Why? The woman's voice became softer, but colder. Because after midnight, she remembers. James didn't ask what she meant. He wasn't sure he wanted to know. The woman stood. If you follow these rules, you will be safe, and so will we. Then she left the room. The girl stayed seated, quietly swinging her legs under the chair. She looked at James and smiled slightly. Thank you for the soup, she said. James tried to return the smile. You're welcome. That day passed slowly. James tried to stay busy, shoveling snow, fixing a loose window frame, feeding the fire. But he couldn't stop thinking about the rules. What did she mean by, it won't be us who walks out? What happens after midnight? He wanted to ask. But remembered Rule 2. That evening, they all had dinner together. The woman, Mara, she said her name was, spoke very little. The girl was polite, quiet, and different. James noticed something strange. The girl didn't blink. Not once during the entire dinner. Later that night, James watched them go into the guest room. The door shut softly behind them. He stared at the clock. 11:12 p.m. He should sleep, but he couldn't. At 12:03 a.m. James sat up in bed. The house was silent. And then he heard it. Laughter. Soft, echoing, not coming from the guest room, but from the hallway. James got out of bed. His feet touched the cold wooden floor. He slowly opened his bedroom door. The hallway was dark, but at the far end, the girl was standing. Alone. She was facing the wall, not moving. James whispered, Hey, are you okay? She didn't turn. He took 1 step forward. Do you need something? Then, slowly, the girl turned her head, not her body. Just her head, like something not quite human, and her eyes were glowing white, not yellow like her mother's, white, bright, cold. I remember now, she said in a voice that didn't sound like hers. James froze. What do you mean? I remember the fire, the sky breaking. The screaming, she said. Her voice echoed unnaturally. I remember running. I remember the hands that grabbed me. I remember what they did. James backed away. You're sleepwalking. Go back to bed. But the girl didn't move. She just stared at him. You fed me, she said. That means I can feel you. She pointed at his chest. I can feel your fear. It tastes like metal. James didn't know what to say. His mouth was dry. Then, the door to the guest room flew open. Mara stepped out. Her eyes were blazing gold now. She looked at the girl. Enough. The girl blinked, and just like that, her eyes were normal again. She turned around, walked silently to the room, and disappeared inside. Mara looked at James. She's not dangerous, she said. But her memories are... Then she closed the door. James stood alone in the hallway. His heart was pounding. He didn't sleep that night. He didn't even try. James had lived near the forest for 7 years, but he had never walked deep into it. Not because he was scared, not really, but because the trees were thick and the trails disappeared fast. It was too easy to get lost. And sometimes, deep in the night, strange sounds came from there, like whispering wind or low humming, almost like music. But not made by anything human. He had always stayed away. Until now. It was just after sunrise. Snow covered the ground, but the air felt warmer than usual. James stood outside with his coffee, watching the tree line. Waiting, then he saw her, the girl. She was walking barefoot. Across the snow, slowly, quietly, her small body glowing slightly in the morning light. She didn't see him. Or maybe she didn't care. James didn't call out, he just followed. The snow crunched under his boots as he moved after her. She walked without a sound. They went deeper and deeper, past broken branches, frozen leaves, and strange marks in the ground, circular symbols made of lines and dots James didn't understand. Still, the girl kept walking. No fear, no hesitation. After about 10 minutes, the forest opened into a wide, quiet clearing. James stopped. The center of the clearing was a crater, a deep, dark hole in the ground, as if something large had smashed into the earth from the sky. Around it, the trees were blackened and bent, as if scorched by fire. The girl walked to the edge of the crater. She looked down, then she knelt and placed her small hand on the ground. And that's when it happened. The earth under her hand began to glow, soft blue light spreading like water, forming shapes and lines, circles and symbols that moved like they were alive. James stepped back. The glow pulsed once, twice, then vanished. The girl stood and turned toward him. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. James's voice came out quiet. "What is this place?" She looked down at the crater. Her eyes were calm, but distant. "This is where we fell," she said. "Fell?" James asked. The girl nodded. "We came from far, too far. We crashed here a long time ago. Before you were born, before this forest grew tall." James tried to speak, but the words didn't come. The girl continued. "There were more of us, but the silence found us. They hunted us. They took most of us." "Who is the silence?" James asked. The girl didn't answer. She looked around, suddenly alert. "They're still looking," she whispered. She pointed to the edge of the clearing. James turned. Nothing was there, but the trees were too still. The air too quiet, no birds, no sound. Not even wind. The girl grabbed his hand. Her skin was warm, soft, too warm for this cold morning. "We need to go," she said. Now, they walked fast back through the forest. James kept looking over his shoulder. He didn't see anything, but he felt something, a pressure in the air, like being watched by 1,000 eyes that were never meant to blink. When they reached the house, Mara was already outside. Her eyes were bright gold, glowing stronger than ever. "You followed her?" she said, not a question. "A fact." James nodded. "I saw the crater. She told me." "You broke the rule," Mara interrupted. James felt angry now. "You gave me rules, but no truth. How am I supposed to trust you if I don't know what's happening?" Mara walked toward him, slow and graceful like a shadow. Her voice became sharper. "Knowing our truth is not the same as understanding it. Our story is not written in words your mind can carry." James didn't step back. "I'm not afraid." Mara's eyes narrowed. "You should be." The girl stepped between them. "He helped me," she said. "He deserves to know. He saw the crash site. He didn't run." Mara looked at her daughter for a long moment, then she turned away. "Very well," she said, "but no more mistakes. They have already sensed movement." James felt a chill pass through him. "What do you mean?" "The silence," Mara said. "They follow energy." "And you left a trail in the snow." That night, James stayed near the window, watching the forest. A soft wind had returned. But it didn't feel like wind. It felt like breath, slow, waiting. In the dark, something blinked. Far beyond the trees, two small lights, like eyes watching. James couldn't sleep. Again. Outside, the forest was quiet. Too quiet, no wind, no birds, no sounds at all. Just stillness. Inside, the house felt different too. The air was heavier, like the walls were holding their breath. He sat in the kitchen, drinking cold coffee, watching the hallway where the guest room door stayed shut. He didn't know if the woman and the girl were sleeping, or if they even needed to sleep at all. He thought about the crater, the symbols glowing from the earth, the girl's voice saying, "We fell," and Mara's words echoing in his mind, "You should be afraid." He wasn't afraid. He was something else. Curious. Just before dawn, the guest room door opened. Mara stepped out. Her long black hair was loose. Her eyes weren't glowing now, just calm and sharp, like a still lake before a storm. She looked at him. "You want answers?" "James," nodded. Yes. Follow me, she said. They walked outside. The snow had stopped, and the sky was turning gray. Mara didn't speak until they reached the edge of the trees. Then she turned to him. We come from a place you cannot see, she said. Not above, not below, a place beside yours. James frowned. Another planet? She shook her head. No, another layer, another thread in the cloth of space. He didn't understand, but he listened. We were travelers once, she said. Not with ships, with minds. We moved through layers, gently, quietly, until one day we passed through the wrong one. James looked into the forest. The silence, he said. Mara nodded slowly. They are not creatures. They are not machines. They are hunger, made of thought and cold. They do not build. They do not speak. They erase. James felt a cold sweat form on his neck. They found us, Mara continued. We escaped through a tear. It dropped us here, in your world. She paused, then looked into James's eyes. I lost my people, my home, my name. I became something new to protect her. She looked back toward the house, where the little girl was now standing in the window, watching them. James whispered, Who is she? Mara's voice softened. She is not a child. She is a key. A key to what? To everything. James turned to her. Why tell me now? Mara replied, Because you touched the light. You followed her. You saw the symbols. Now the silence sees you too. James looked at his hand. I didn't feel anything. You will, she said. That night James was alone again. Mara and the girl stayed in their room. The door was locked, the way it always was after sunset. James sat on the couch, staring at his hand. He didn't notice it at first, but slowly it began to glow. Faintly, like pale fire under his skin. He jumped up, panicking. What is happening to me? Then, behind him, the girl spoke. You're changing. James spun around. She was standing there in the dark, outside the locked room. How did you get out? He asked. I never really stayed in, she said. Her eyes weren't white or yellow. They were glowing blue now, soft and sad. James backed up a little. What's happening to me? You saw the core, she said. The light from our world. It marked you. Is it going to kill me? He asked. No, she said. It's waking you up. Waking me up to what? She stepped closer. You are still human. But now you are more. James stared at her, confused, afraid, but also strangely calm. I don't want powers, he said. I just wanted to help. And you did, she whispered. But now you carry something inside, something they want. Suddenly, every light in the house flickered. The girl's eyes narrowed. They're close. James ran to the window. In the distance, beyond the trees, shadows were moving, not walking, not flying. Just shifting. Fast, silent. The lights flickered again, then went dark. Mara appeared behind them. Her voice was sharp. They're trying to find your shape. What does that mean? James asked. They don't knock, she sighed. They don't ask. They don't break in. She turned to James. They become you. The room grew cold. The girl reached out and held James's hand. You helped me when I was hungry, she said. Now I will help you. A bright blue pulse lit the room, not painful, not hot. Just pure light. James gasped. He could feel everything. The cold outside, the trees breathing, the shadows watching. He could hear the silence, not as words, but as a feeling, like falling into a hole that had no bottom. And he could feel something else inside him, small, growing, alive. Power. Mara looked at him. You can still walk away. Pretend none of this happened. James shook his head. They're coming. I can feel it. Mara smiled, just a little. Then it's time to stop running. James used to believe his home was safe. Solid walls, a locked door, a quiet forest. But now, even the air inside felt watched. It began with the lights. They flickered every evening like weak candles before a storm. James replaced the bulbs. Checked the wires. Nothing helped. Then came the noises, soft, almost human sounds just beyond the edge of the trees. A laugh, a whisper, a sharp breath. But when James stepped outside to check, there was nothing. Only snow and silence until one night. The silence watched back. James stood by the window just after sunset. Mara and the girl were quiet. They didn't speak much now. Only listened. The girl often stood facing the corners of the room, as if speaking to someone James couldn't see. That evening, she turned to him and said something that sent chills through his chest. "They've sent a mirror." James frowned. "What does that mean?" Mara answered instead. "They don't knock. They copy. They shape themselves into things that feel familiar. To get close, to get inside." James looked at her. "They send something that looks like me? Not just you," she said. "Maybe someone you lost, someone you love, someone you forgot." James felt his throat tighten. That night, the knock came again. Not at the door. The window. 3 slow taps. James froze. The girl whispered, "Don't look." But he did. Outside, standing in the snow, was his brother, except his brother had died 3 years ago in a car crash. The figure outside looked exactly like him. Same face, same jacket, even the small scar above his eyebrow. But the eyes were wrong. Too dark. Too deep. The figure lifted one hand and waved. James backed away. Mara stepped in front of him. "That's not your brother. That is the silence wearing his skin." James could barely breathe. "They know my memories? They feed on them," she said. Then she turned to the girl. "It's time." They went to the basement. James rarely used it, just storage and old tools. But now it had become something else. Mara placed her hands on the concrete wall and whispered something in her strange language. The wall shimmered and then opened like mist. Behind it, a chamber made of smooth black stone. A small circle drawn in glowing lines. The girl stepped into the circle. Mara looked at James. "You carry light now," she said. "They will come for you first. You must learn to hold it." James stepped into the circle. "How?" The girl held his hand. "Don't fight the fear," she said. "Use it." The house shook. Outside, the wind had returned, but it wasn't natural. It howled like screaming voices, all speaking at once. James looked up through the basement window. Shapes moved through the trees. Long, tall, bending in impossible ways. One of them stepped out of the woods, not walking, sliding. Its body looked human, but its arms were too long. Its face was smooth, no mouth, no eyes. Just a surface reflecting James's own face, a perfect copy. Smiled without lips. Mara whispered, "They've entered the shape phase." James stepped back. "What do we do?" "We hold," she said. "We don't invite, we don't speak." But the copy spoke first, a perfect voice. James's voice. "Let me in. I'm you. I remember everything." It spoke of childhood memories, his first bike, his mother's old songs, things no one else could know. James felt the pull, the sadness, the familiarity, but then the girl screamed. A loud, sharp sound that shattered the moment. The copy outside twitched violently, like a puppet cut from its strings, its body bent backward. Then vanished into the trees. Silence. Then a new sound. Footsteps. But this time, many. All around the house. James ran upstairs. Looked out every window. Dozens of shapes in the forest, all still. All staring. Some were shaped like James, some like people he once knew. One looked like his father. One like a girl he dated in college. One like a stranger he saw on a bus 10 years ago. They were digging through his life. Using it, he turned to Mara. "How do we stop them?" "We don't," she said. "Not yet." She looked at the girl. "Is it ready?" The girl nodded. "I've drawn the gate," she said. She placed her hands together, and the circle on the floor glowed. Bright blue. The air trembled. James could feel it in his chest, like thunder without sound. The girl looked at him. "You're part of the gate now? You're the anchor? You're what makes this place real." James didn't understand, but he nodded. "What do I do?" "Stand still," she said, "and don't stop remembering who you are." Outside, the shapes screamed, not with mouths, but with rage. They hated the gate. They hated memory. They hated light. The house cracked. The walls shook. Glass broke, and James, standing in the middle of the glowing circle, felt something open inside his mind. Not a power, a memory. Not his own. He saw the girl's world, blue skies with 2 suns, Floating cities, peaceful people, who spoke through light and thought. Then he saw it burn, black smoke. The sky tearing like paper. The silence falling from above like rain. And her, the girl, alone, running across broken ground. James opened his eyes. He was crying, but the girl was smiling. You saw? She said. And outside, the shapes began to back away. The storm had passed. Not wind. Not rain, but something worse and older. The silence was gone. For now, the forest stood still again, but not quiet. There were birds again. A soft breeze in the trees. Life was slowly returning. James stood on the porch, wrapped in a blanket. His hands still shook sometimes, though not from cold. From the memory, he wasn't the same man who lived alone in this house before. Something inside him had changed. He had seen another world, and that world had seen him back. Mara sat at the edge of the clearing, eyes closed, face lifted to the sun. She had not spoken since the night they activated the gate. The glow in her eyes had faded, but the strength in her presence remained. The girl, whose name James had finally learned was Ellen, drew symbols in the snow with a stick. Not magic. Not ritual. Just play. For the first time she looked like a child. James sat beside her. You're not scared anymore, he said. Ellen smiled. No, because you're not scared anymore, James chuckled softly. I'm still scared, just braver than I used to be. Ellen looked up. That's all bravery is. Later that day, Mara finally spoke. We cannot stay much longer. James nodded. He had known this. The silence are not gone, she said. Only pushed back. They will return. They always do. James looked down. Can I stop them? Not yet, she said. But you can slow them. You carry part of the light now. James touched his chest. It's still warm sometimes, a soft, quiet pulse under his ribs. The gate, he said. It's still open? Yes, Mara replied. But not for long. When it closes, only one. Path remains. Either we stay and die slowly or we leave. James looked at Ellen, now chasing a floating leaf. She's happier here, he said. Mara nodded. Because of you. James didn't speak for a while. Then, will I ever see you again? Mara's eyes held his. If we survive what's coming next, yes. That evening they stood in the basement again. The stone circle glowed softly. The final energy flickered beneath their feet. Mara reached into her coat and handed James a small object. It looked like a stone, smooth, black, warm to the touch. What is it? He asked. A memory seed, she said. From our home, it holds light. You may need it one day. James looked at Ellen. She stepped forward and hugged him, something she had never done before. You fed me, she whispered. And that saved more than just me. James knelt down. You saved me too, kid. She pulled back and smiled. You're not alone anymore. A sharp hum filled the room. The light of the gate rose. Mara stepped into the glow, holding Ellen's hand. She looked back one last time. You are part of something now, James, a thread in something ancient. James nodded. His voice cracked. I'll be ready next time. Mara smiled, truly smiled, for the first time. Good. And then the light rose high. And they were gone. The basement was dark now. Silent. But not empty. James stood alone for a long time, then walked upstairs. Weeks passed. The snow melted. Spring came early. James repaired the broken windows. Planted a garden? Cleaned the house top to bottom. He still dreamed of the blue skies Ellen showed him, of the floating cities, of the fall. And sometimes of the silence watching from the trees, but the fear didn't win anymore. He left a memory stone on his nightstand. It glowed faintly every now and then, like a heartbeat, a reminder. He was not the same. He was connected. Then, one night, a knock. James froze. It was the same slow sound. He opened the door carefully. There, in the dark, stood a little boy. Alone. Thin, pale, quiet, no shoes. James looked around. No one else. The boy looked up with wide, scared eyes. The same way Ellen once had. James didn't hesitate. He opened the door wide and said, Come in, it's warm. The boy stepped inside. He didn't speak. He only looked around slowly, taking in the walls, the fire, the soft rug under his feet. James made soup. Sat with him. Waited. After a while, the boy whispered, "They said you'd help." James didn't ask who they were, he only nodded. "You're safe now." Outside, the trees swayed gently, the world was still turning, and James, once alone, now stood between two worlds, a man who fed a hungry child, and became a light the darkness could not put out.